Y'all, welcome back to Kentucky Fried Wargaming, where two guys who are qualified to talk about anything decide to talk about a game with hard math and chance. I'm Joe.
And I'm John.
And today we are coming at you topically. Recently, just a couple of days ago, as opposed to recording this, Para Bellum has revealed their product catalog for the rest of the year, so we see what's going to be coming from now all the way through the end of 2024. And there is so much in it, and we think it's so interesting that we're just going to take a whole little episode here to go through it with you and talk about what's coming, why we think it's so cool, show off some of the new minis, because I do think some of them are really incredible, and why it makes me excited about Conquest and like my two factions going into the rest of the year. And for John, the same.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, if I'm being honest, like, it's just cool. Like, it is cool that it is August, and we have gotten a roadmap for the rest of the year for this game. And, like, we might see more stuff. Like, we might end up seeing more rules stuff and everything else, but we at least know, like, roughly, like, the models we're getting. Sort of easier to plan around. It's very cool, very fun, and on multiple levels, it's just a great time. So, like, excuse us if we're really just sort of gushing about the excitement that we have about this game. Like, that's sort of this whole episode.
But you could just be excited with us, and I think you should be, because there's really cool stuff here. Truly. We're going to start with some stuff that has been revealed before, but now we know when it's coming. We've got beautiful painted full art pictures. With some new Sorcerer Kings updates. Sorcerer Kings is a new army in Conquest: The Last Argument of Kings. They're actually the most recent army to be released. And they had a really sizable Wave 1 release with a respectable number of kits and models and units to run. However, it does feel a little restrictive because it is a totally not done army, which very, very expected. But alas, still kind of great if you're someone who plays Sorcerer Kings hard. This is the answer to it feeling just a little stifling, is Wave 2 is coming out hot on the heels of Wave 1. We just got Wave 1 in spring of this year? Like late winter?
Maybe mid-spring, early summer, it felt more like. They had like some logistics issues, which made it hard for like Sorcerer Kings to really pop off when it came out, so it kind of slow rolled out. They were missing some stuff. They got Donner Archers a couple weeks ago. I think the Mahab also came out with them, but they're showing it off in here. The Rider model is coming out, which is also in here, full art picture. It's very cool. They're very good. The army desperately needed it. They have lots of monster now, but in a good way, because I think the Mahab, especially with the Rider on it, just does something very differently to what the big cats do.
Mm-hmm.
But the big news here for Sorcerer Kings players in this product catalog is a Mahabharati Initiates.
Which I just think such a cool techie thing mechanically for the game.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So what they said in the stream that they're trying to have them do is that when they activate, they have Arcane Conduit, which means it will tick forward like rituals, which is great. Right, because they're wizards and can do that, but they don't cast spells, which provides another effect for them, which is that they can provide interference for enemy spellcasters and not cast spells, which is cool, and it does something fun with this unit, because it takes already existing design space for the game and adds a unique new utility unit for a role that doesn't require them to write a bunch of new rules and add bloat to an army that it was already sort of like full of different things going on. Mm-hmm. And I think they did it in a way where these are just going to find their way into Sorcerer Kings list easily. Especially the way that a lot of people like to play. This is just going to allow them to ramp into rituals faster while also holding points and forcing your opponent to like struggle to cast spells.
Yeah, because generally the thing that's kind of a problem when you want to disrupt enemy casters, right, is that you have to get your caster closer to the enemy. So that, your caster has to be either closer to the actual enemy caster, or your caster has to be close to the unit that is in range of the enemy caster getting hit, which, again, means that you're fairly close to the enemy caster by nature of distances of spells that aren't like 48 inches in these games. At least not here in this one. And that means if you are like Sorcerer Kings and you have rather frail heroes who are not good at being in the danger zone and could die if they get caught out, that's kind of a risky proposition depending on your opponent and what they have lined up. If you get close enough to try to give out disruption, you might lose your hero, which you really don't want to risk in an army where the whole thing functions around these hero casters. This lets you still give off disruption without risking your hero. And I think that has just straight value in a list like this. And like John said, it does let you hold objectives while doing it. Mm-hmm. I think depending on points and stuff, why not? Seems really good. And again, just like hats off on a really sneaky design decision. This could have been an overworded, unique keyword thing, and just don't need to.
Yeah,
does everything you want it to do. Very easy.
Sometimes simple is best, and like I don't know, having looked through all the Sorcerer Kings rules, I think I would build most lists figuring out how do I get some of these in, and then start figuring out the rest of what I'm doing.
I mean, I think a unit of these will be a pretty easy ask in most lists. I don't know how many units, but a unit I'm pretty confident will find a use.
Yep.
In many.
1 to 2. 1 to 2.
So great expansion to the army. On top of the monster centerpiece that is the Mahut, and a new hero who can go on that Mahut, and archers that are out now, and archers that, again, can be on the Mahut. It just adds some more flavor and option for a force that needed it.
But next, Joe, are your boys. Nord, Dwarven Gundam itself.
Hell yeah.
Coming in at 350. That's actually super under 3,500 pounds.
Like, what the hell is it made out of?
Is the stone forged?
Yeah, we actually hollowed it. It's only like 0.3 mils thick of metal, and it's duraluminum at that. Like, it's real light. Yeah, Dwagum on Stoneforged. I am super excited for this. I've already pre-ordered it at my local shop, Tactical Retreat Gaming. I'm really excited for it to get here because I have had some problems with Dwagum foundationally. If you've listened to our Dwagum videos, you know this. I love the army. I think it's really cool. But for me, the problem is that there's really kind of like one path to building it. It feels like that's decent. Or like it feels like is the right choice, so to speak. And well, I still think the Ardent Caraway has more gas than people give it credit for. I do agree that like it's tempered steel shaper and tempered sorcerer and stuff is just like the more common build. But I want more flex. I want more defense. I want more reactivity. I don't want to just throw hand grenades at my friends. Like I want to be able to kind of control the board with some tricky abilities and have like a mixed arms force. And that's been a little hard to do. But here's my answer. Stoneforged. You take a Stoneforged, which is a big monster. Again, I love big monster, and I actually think big monster has a use here because our current big monsters, other than the Ironclad, which you have to take a hold ray to get, are not good at getting in melee. This has a little more toughness. It can get up the board and sit sort of center to kind of fight for objectives.
Also, this is doing something different that most monsters didn't do. Like a lot of the Talos is close to like what this does, but this is just doing. It's not just a wrecking ball. Like it has utility and purpose beyond just killing stuff really good.
Mm-hmm. I think it hits just hard enough that you kind of have to respond to it some way because you can't leave it entirely uncontested. But it also isn't such a wrecking ball that you necessarily want to devote multiple units to trying to do it. Like you would with something that's a bigger threat, which lands it in an interesting place. And further muddying the math is that you can put a Steel Shaper on top of it. And the Steel Shaper can burn tokens to give itself buffs and tankiness and sort of give army synergies in an AoE around it. Which I just think makes it an interesting utility anchor piece in a force that is normally about shotguns. And I really like that it's another choice that I actually think is going to have some play. I don't know how much. I haven't got to test it yet. But I'm very excited to do so. And I think I can make this work. And then backing it up. New kit. It's a dual kit. Which I just think is generally good. The first side is Flame Berserkers, which are an existing model, but they're a model that came out pretty early on in the game's life cycle comparatively, and they are showing their age. I actually don't dislike them as much as some people do. Like, there are some older Parabellum models that, like, just to be honest, I'm really not a fan of. But the Berserkers I didn't think were all that bad. But I welcome new sculpts for them. That's great. Especially when it's a dual kit where you can build a new unit, Magnaforged. That, again, do something that the army currently doesn't have.
Yeah, and I think here's a good time to sort of talk about something that they talked about on the stream, and it's going to lead into a thing that we're going to talk about after this with the next new releases. They specifically said multiple times that they're reforging, that's what they called, a lot of the older kits into new kits when they can. That's a thing they said they're going to do. They also have said that they're going to be reforging some of the armies and sort of like reshaping their rules and what they do and sort of looking at stuff again. So do not be alarmed if you start seeing changes to the armies and changes to the game in the future. We don't have exact like screenshots and examples of all of it, so I don't want to like talk about all the stuff they talked about on the stream. But for what we're pretty confident we can talk about, we're going to talk about.
Yeah. The quick hitter for Magnaforged is that they're more of an attrition piece where, you hit them, they die, they hurt you for killing them, and they also hit pretty hard if they get the initiative. So it's kind of a little prickly porcupine, to steal a term from AOS 4. That's pretty hot right now. Leaving Dwagum entirely, though. John, it's Orc Mommies on dinosaur time.
My time has come!
Your time has come! You've been waiting for this quaddle for so long.
I have, and I'm going to be honest, this is not what I expected it was going to look like. But I still love it. Like, I expected more tropical, sort of mythical bird. That's not what we got. Instead, we got orc riding, throwing giant spear on top of giant, like, winged pterodon sort of thing. It's like a giant version. And, like, this is not... I didn't expect it to be as big as it is. They showed, like, a better, like, in-person, not 3D printed version of it. And it's quite large. Like, it's as long as an apex predator, and it's pretty sizable. And to be honest, I'm quite excited about it. And its role is better defined now, whereas previously it was just sort of a light monster that maybe just like skirmished really well. Now it is a utility piece that applies pressure early by making your opponent sort of like deal with the fact that I am throwing a utility piece pretty high up the board, and it has airborne, so it can't be in melee. You have to shoot it. It means I can't melee you, but I can shoot you from up high in the air, and I can mark you for my other range units, and I can fly over you and do some like damage, like hit and run damage, and then I leave you marked for my hunter and make them hunted, and then I can charge them with a unit, and then that charging unit gets a buff for the hunted. We just don't know what that buff is yet, but they get something. Right, we'll find out.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. In Waldron, generally, it's sort of like mini runs up, apply damage to enemy face, right? Like, it's pretty simplistic interaction between you and enemy. Like, you've got to do complex chance stuff to get there, but, like, you run up, previously, you run up, you hurt someone, and that's about it. This is more tricky. I'm into it, though. And I think it's still pressure, which plays into the Waldron game plan, but it's pressure in a different light. It's pressure in a very different way, rather than just punching someone in the mouth.
And here's where I'm going to talk about some of the stuff they said about Waldron and Waldron changes. Two big things I want to make sure we talk about with this is, one, they said chants are changing, and though their power will be going down, they are putting that power back into the units themselves, and that they are making the chants simpler to play with, which I think is a phenomenal call. I think that will make the game much more playable for new players, and it'll allow the design team to sort of like play around with what these things do. And I think it'll end up in a really good spot. At least that's my impression. And we will see. The second thing is that we're going to see a restructuring of basically Waldron as a whole. Like, the army isn't just getting, like, a couple of small changes, and not just chants are changing. It sounds like the entire army is sort of getting a rework. not just like a small one. And this is not the only faction that's going to be getting such. They specifically said a lot of the older factions are probably going to get another look to make them play more in a way that they want them to.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is wonderful for the game. I think this is a thing that it should be welcome. It's a thing that clearly has been on their mind for a while. And I think that what makes it the coolest is that they talked about this in a Twitch stream with like people on a Google Meet call, and people could ask questions. There was discussion immediately about this thing, right? They have talked about it on Discord. Like the interactivity between the choices they're making here and how they're explaining it, and they're like interwoven within the community, makes this feel like a much more interpersonal change for army design than you see in other wargames. And I think it's very, very good.
Yeah, we don't know what it's going to look like exactly, but just like be open to change, and we'll get through it together. We'll probably see a video from us going over those changes at some point when they roll out, if they are big enough to warrant it.
Listen, we're going to make another Woodrune video, like where we're talking about what happened after we play like 20 games.
What a weekend. Also, John, I have a correction I have to issue publicly. An apology. I said that was a pterodon. It is pteranodon. I apologize for this great disgrace I have brought upon our house.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on to...
It matters to someone out there. Someone at their computer is like, hallelujah.
It matters to you, because you looked it up.
I did. I not only looked it up, I was digging for a minute. Next, Chosen of Death. John, what does this even mean, other than we're adding more big ladies?
Chosen of Death are, in lore, they are a cult of like that follows the sentient being of death. They are all about it. They sort of like, we don't have enough lore about them. There's like a couple pages, so I can't really say exactly where they're going with the lore. There's a little bit of a snippet here in their catalog that's super fun. But I think the interesting thing design-wise is that they look really, really cool. And getting more Chosen units in Woodrune will allow you to see just more diversity in Woodrune lists that aren't just all dinosaur or spam the infantry that's really good. Like, it sort of allows you to see lots of different infantry being used, which is great. Also, the way the Worshippers of Death in Woodrune are just in a different sort of vibe than most Worshippers of Death. Normally, they're very spooky and like undeady. These are not. They are much more about understanding anatomy and trying to forestall death, but like have a reverence and respect for it.
They seem sort of like pragmatically mystic. Like,
yes,
they're pragmatically mystical, but not in like that Spirit Halloween way. Even though I like a Spirit Halloween class. I'm into it. I like the sort of dance-esque poses that we got going on, but still feels battle appropriate. Like that's hard to sculpt in a way that makes sense and doesn't look doofy, and they've pulled it off here. So hats off to the art team.
Yeah, I think these are going to be gorgeous, but also a nightmare to put on bases. Just calling it now.
That could be true. But I do think, because of the way the weapons are put in different directions, they probably sit on stands pretty well. But time will tell.
Time will tell. But now we've gotten to arguably the best model of all of them.
It is my favorite model of the group, that's for sure.
And it is sick. It is the Mounted Predator. And for those who don't know, this used to be an artisan, like a Founders exclusive, like Brood of like Amagara model. Now, it is its own model. It's an artisan series. It's great. Needless to say, I will be getting this. It will be great. I will get more Raptor Riders to run it. I'll do whatever I have to. This looks great. I love it.
Yeah, I really like I know it's a Mounted Predator, but like the Predator helm-esque helmet that she's got going on. It does remind me of the Predator movie helmets, with like that rounded but not too round forehead faceplate thing. And then all the skulls and the back fan. It's just very, very dope. And I actually think this painted up will be incredible. in a number of schemes. Cannot wait to see painted pictures of these on Instagram. And I think it's going to slot right into a lot of existing Wudroon lists. Because again, Raptor Riders are pretty common choices.
Mm-hmm.
Just as pressure piece. Now, jumping into an army that we own as like the Sister of Traveling Pants army, but it is not one that either of us are super experienced with. City-States. Who, actually, this is like their second wave of a little bit of love they're getting. Earlier in the year, they got the Talos, which is a big monster that has done wonders for them. Holy crap, what an absolute unit, helping them out with some new tools. And second, Chariots, which added some much-needed speed to that list. To that army list, and has also been helping them. But they're not done. There's more cool stuff coming. First up is Clockwork C Plates. This sort of reminds me of Hellboy 2 Golden Army Clockwork vibes, which I really like. Well, I love that style. It's not for me, but I really like that vibe. With the plumes and the domed face plates. And the just like the limbs that are just a little too thin for a human being, but keeps the vague silhouette of humans. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know exactly what role this is going to fill in their army. I do not nearly know City-States well enough to know what their beta units are doing, but
I believe it's supposed to be heavy infantry. If you play City-States, correct me in the comments, because you probably know more than I do.
Oh, easy. The bar is easy to clear. Very easy to clear. You don't need to be Kang to know more than us about City-States. Hoplites I think are cool minis. It's not really my vibe. We very quickly run right back to my vibe. With buff beastie boys with polearms. This is so cool.
Remind me about your last four LARP characters you've played and how they were just beefy boy with polearm.
The one I'm currently playing is actually a beastie boy with polearm, but long story. So Sacred Beasts. Sacred Band. They're like beastkin-esque folk who are warriors that call back to an older time. And as you'll see that in their armor design, it doesn't look like the modern, sleek, Roman-esque hoplite design. It's more high Greek era, more over the top, more mythical, with like the scale mail and the animal sculptures on their pauldrons. What I also really like is that they've got sensible stances. Polearms very quickly can become like a barrel of monkeys when you're trying to get all those guys to stand on like a 4-man stand. But because they've got sensible sort of like up and diagonal poses, or just like hold spear up and down on the ground, or glaze in these cases for most of them, I don't think they're actually going to be hard to play on a table at all. Looks pretty nicely posed. And they've got some cool variety going on with the polearms themselves. I see some like serrated glaives over here. I see what looks like might just be a couple of spears. I see a trident. Like, I killed a guy with a trident? I mean, come on. That's cool. I don't know how many will go in an army or anything like that, but I know they cut an impressive figure and would be fun to paint.
Mm-hmm. And then next up, and speaking of City-States, is the Lore Campaign Pack. The next one we're getting. Last time it was Dragon vs. 100 Kingdoms. This time it is Crucible of Wills, Fanning the Fire. It is City-States versus Sorcerer Kings. It's got a cool Medusa lady in it, and it's got a cool
sorcerer. Is that a Gorgon? Is that an actual Gorgon?
We're going to find out. I'm curious to see what this is like. The last one was pretty well received from a lot of people. It was surprisingly pretty affordable for what it was. Came with some interesting stuff. I'm curious to see how these continue to progress and how these continue to improve, because I don't think these are going to just stay at the same quality level. If Parabellum's shown anything, it's that they learn from each of these and compound on them into the future ones. And I would like to see where these end up. And also, I want to see the Wudroon one already, because I want to know what cool character I'm going to get.
Now, more STLs.
Yes.
Because the last terrain was cool, so why not more?
Yeah. I really want a filament printer just so I can start printing these. They are cool. Like, I really, 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 really dig how unique these buildings are for Conquest Battlefield specifically. And this talked about in the chat that they are not going to be like doing trees or anything like that anytime soon, simply because they want to focus on releasing unique stuff for the setting. And I think that's a great move because, like, look at the Sorcerer King stuff here. You don't see a lot of that in fantasy terrain. It's very unique.
And even the city-states, obviously it's Greek-esque, but I normally don't see Greek terrain that looks this, like, high Greece in its appearance.
Yeah. I mean, you see Dwarven terrain all the time. You see... The city-state stuff wasn't super unique in the sense that, like...
You mean 100 Kingdoms?
Yes, the 100 Kingdoms one wasn't super unique. It was clearly 100 Kingdoms flavored and looked really good, but it looks like every other fantasy thing, because all fantasy sort of comes at a base level from that, like, Western idea of knights and stuff, which is what 100 Kingdoms is sort of based off of. But these are so uniquely different from the rest of what you're seeing in, like, fantasy games and wargaming that I even just want it to add some cool stuff. Like, I can imagine using these Sorcerer King things for maybe, like, potentially Infinity games with Hagaslam and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that'd be very, very cool. Especially depending on paint job you pick. I'm into that. Really,
and I think the city-state stuff, like, don't get me wrong, we're going to see Old Dominion ones later. We're going to see Wizardroom ones later. We're going to see ones for every faction. But you could take these city-states ones and, like, convert them up to make them kind of look like Old Dominion ones if they're, like, crumbling and falling apart. Could be cool.
Pretty incredible. That'd be a fun conversion job.
But as cool as new terrain is, probably the biggest and the largest haymaker of news from this catalog, that just, it's like they looked at Joe and went, what if we just gave you the thing that you want?
So badly. Well, they have revealed that all of this Nords, like, historically accurate KG objective play, like, yeah, that's all cool. But what if we went to SummerSlam? Okay, what if we threw down the gauntlet and we said objectives are for punks, and we're only here to kick ass in this Waffle House parking lot? The answer is, you would get something like the Promethean Sadir, which on the stream they called the cider, and now my Kentucky public school brain can't help but hear the Promethean cider every time I read it, and I'm doing my best to not just scream it on the screen. So, like, on that Nords episode where we were talking about how, like, you know, Nords kind of has two very distinct flavors. One that is historically accurate, sort of foot troops doing their thing and being a little cagey, and then some monstrous stuff that doesn't quite feel like it fits, other than to just be like, oh, yeah, you go along with the foot guys. You're just kind of there as a little piece. This is the solution to that feeling, because, y'all, one, it's a big hero, okay? It's a big monster, it's a big Jotnar. So we get another Jotnar, which will give us 4 giants in Nords, which is just really cool on its own. That's a lot of variety. That's a lot of monster picks that other factions don't get. Each of them which have their own purpose and use. Second, though, the Mad Lads have done it. The thing we have been talking about for, probably about since the second month since we were playing this thing, and I got sick of having to take a Kunin gear to take an Ice Jotnar. The Sadir is a hero. He is not just a giant who works and follows around a Kunin gear. No. He's a hero, which means you can take him as a leader of his own warband, but also as your warlord if you so choose. We don't know what the supremacy ability is. Whatever it is, I bet it's going to kick ass. Which means I am going to have a heck of a winter. And I love that. I love that as an idea, that if I want to lean monstrous, there will now be a path to lean monstrous. And without cutting the legs out from underneath the more objective, techie, human-y playstyle that other people like.
Yeah, I think they've done a smart move here in just creating more ways to play Nords, which is great. But an even smarter move, in my opinion, in that this is a dual kit.
Yes, I never would have guessed this in a billion years. I'm going to be honest. I did not see this coming.
They're quickly getting to a point, and they even talked about on the stream, where they're getting a lot of SKUs. And so they're trying to come up with unique ways of, like, producing less SKUs, but more stuff. And so this can be taken in either Nords or city-states. The same box with the same SKU has enough bits in it to make either. You can't make two, but you can make either a city-states or a Nords one, and you can take it in either. That's awesome. Like, that's quite cool. So if you are a city-states and a Nords player, you could theoretically just buy this once and just play in both armies.
Why not?
You can buy two if you want to, but like, it's a thing you can do. It looks like impeccable. Like, this is just, I have nothing negative to say about this. This is just great. I don't even know the rules yet, and I'm already like down.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get bits options. Pick your flavor, pick your armor types. You're going to have stuff left over. That's fine. Give it to a friend. I would rather have more than not enough. And this is a clever way to solve a problem of logistics issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it fits the fluff, because while other Jotnars are devoted solely to the Nords currently, because that's where all their deers are made, the Prometheans are not part of the rest of Jotnar society. They aren't beholden to just those restrictive agreements. And Prometheans, obviously, are tied to the big Promethean works over there in the city-states. So they could sort of be a bit of a swing pick between the two factions in the lore and on the table. Just great work. And I can't wait. When this is out, I'm immediately pre-ordering it. Just immediately.
And then there's two more Nords things to talk about. First,
happy winter, me.
Murder Pig. Murder Pig. Crank that hog.
Big Pig. Wow, our brains went to very different places. I was on Lion King when I was a young warthog, and you were cranking hog.
Yeah, listen, hog.
If that doesn't describe our friendship, I don't know what else does.
So here we see big murder pigs. They're going to be big murder pigs, and they're going to act like heavy cavalry, essentially.
Without anyone riding them, because they will not be tamed.
Yes. And that is a thing that is said Nords will not have, which is cavalry. They are not going to get dudes riding beasts. It's not going to happen, because they just use beasts. That's why you got werewolves. That's why you got the Golter Beast Pack. That's why you have the Fenrir Beast Pack. These are effectively your cavalry, and to be honest, I ain't mad. That's awesome. I love the idea that someone's going to build a list that's just Vogir Lord, werewolves, Golter Beast Pack, Fenrir Beast Pack, and giants.
That's awesome.
That's just gonna be Joe.
Heyo, you forgot trolls and Ugar. I like trolls.
Yeah, you'll have some of those. You'll have your token trolls and your token Ugars to like stand on objectives while everything else just like plays Avenged Sevenfold and does the Monster Mayhem truck rally thing.
Yeah, I never really left the Call of Duty lobby. It's still in me. Yeah, I think the Golter Beast Pack are going to be fun. And I think they're going to do a job, actually, that currently the Fenrir Beast Pack don't do. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my Fenrir. They're very useful. It's just, the Fenrir aren't really made to get into tough stuff. They're really good at being fast. They're good at getting on the flanks. They're getting up the board. They're trying to get into the side of, like, mediums and lights. And they do really well against those targets. But they kind of struggle with big things.
And they can tie stuff up if they need to in a pinch.
They don't take a punch very well, because, that's not really their job. These are the guys who I highly, highly suspect are going to be armored enough to take some punch back and also hit like a truck on impact. Mm-hmm. So they can just shift some stuff that maybe has a little more beef than your current options. So, not only do I just like that it's new models and it's very fun and fits my monster flavor, but I also think it will serve a purpose in the army, depending on how stuff shakes out. I can see myself getting some use here.
And then another thing for Nords that they didn't put in the catalog because it wasn't quite ready yet, but they talked about and we have some art here that was shown, is Steel Chosen.
Yes.
They apparently should be coming. We don't know what they're going to look like yet, but boom.
They got the concept art.
Concept art, which means they're working on it. Don't know what exactly they're going to look like, but they're working on it, and it should be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think they said all of this Nord stuff will be dropping together, so I'm assuming all of that's... I think they were shooting for Black Friday or somewhere in November of this year, before the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So all of that will be coming together. It's, rendering pictures to look good take time.
Mm-hmm. Regardless of where they're coming, they're awesome. The design space that they seem to be going into is great. It looks wonderful. So we'll see.
They're beefy lads, and they certainly look like they're way readier to take a punch than other Nords units. They have more metal and plate than other Nords, who very rarely have much metal at all, other than maybe some chainmail. So they do look heavily armored for the army, but they aren't coated head to toe like 100 Kingdoms, and that sort of sweet spot in middle ground is a very nice art design direction to take for Nords. It keeps everything looking cohesive.
I'm curious to see what the unit's going to end up doing on the table, because it could be very cool.
I think it could be a really cool character escorter. I don't know if you're going to really want, like, if you're going to have a need to escort a character around that way, but that's what I think they'd be quite good at. Or maybe, like, attrition scrapping over an objective somewhere. I don't know. I'm interested to try.
And then a few more things. We have the Archimandros, which is a character for city-states.
I think it's Andr Macho.
You're probably right.
Florida public schools.
I don't know what this does. City-states players go off.
I hope he's cool. I really hope he's cool.
I'm glad you're getting new models, but I don't know what this does.
I want this for you. I want this to be cool. Dwagam, though, this I do know. So we talked earlier about how they're going to reforge some old kits. So, some stuff that they made early on, and they looked back and went, we could do better. And one of those is the Steel Shaper. The old kit never really worked for me, and I was just going to do proxies. However, new Steel Shaper, massive improvement. I'm way in on this guy. That last mini, I did not want to paint it. This, you would have to have a truck and a winch to stop me from painting it. The flame motif with like the skulls hidden underneath. Mwah. Very, very cool. Now that's the guy who can lead a warband.
Now, we come to the fun bits.
Flounder!
The Flounder exclusive.
Truly the most important and hollowed reveal in this entire thing.
Sea gnome riding a shark, shooting a laser with a technospear. What a time. And also, like, this model's cool. I honestly want one. Like, I think it would just be fun. It's also, they did a cool thing in that in every Parabellum sanctioned event, you can bring this unit as your warlord. You can substitute this model out for your warlord. It has to be a brute or a character stand, because it doesn't come in a monster base. But it can be your warlord. That's fun. That's just cool. I'm just a fan. Also, it's got a laser on it.
It's a frickin' shark with a frickin' laser beam attached to its frickin' head. God, I need to watch Austin Powers again. And also, it reminds me of Game of the Millennia, Maneater, which, if y'all haven't played out there, you should play. Hysterical. Next, another fun mini, Fishidius.
Fishidius.
Which, God, really pre-gaming on the spooky vibes. Absolutely adorable. The fish man meme will never die, and I hope it doesn't. Huge fan. I think I might get this and paint it for my wife, because she will die of joy.
I actually think I might end up buying up multiple copies of this, because this, outside of the Conquest thing of it being fun, I think there's a lot of people we know who would just really enjoy having this, because it looks like a mixture of a cryptid and a goblin and also a spooky pumpkin time.
Like spooky witch, pumpkin lady. Yeah.
It's just all combined that, like, we know a ton of people where that's just their vibe. So, like, what's up? I might order 4. Like, I might order 4 and start giving them out as little gifts. Like,
what a time. We're going to get some iconic series pictures back. Very, not for me, but cool for folks. And now, the one we're going to finish on, the large and in charge.
Well,
100 Kingdoms.
Before we talk about 100 Kingdoms, we'll just scroll down a little bit and just tell you that if you didn't have a faction t-shirt before, you probably have a faction t-shirt now. And the best one is Sorcerer Kings. Sorcerer Kings one. Big cat doing the Ozzy Osbourne pose. Very cool.
Yeah, I can't argue it. It's pretty great.
Also, I have the Wadrin one, and I will say those t-shirts are actually super high quality. Actually worth it. A lot of t-shirts you buy online, not very good. Those have held up through many washes and quite comfortable.
Oh, good to know. I might buy one for myself.
Not shilling. Parabellum doesn't pay me anything or give me anything. I don't even get like Vanguard stuff. I just really like that t-shirt. Just a good t-shirt.
We're just enthusiasts of good t-shirts, okay?
Yeah. 100 Kingdoms though, right? 100 Kingdoms.
Ooh.
They're getting stuff. And here I thought 100 Kingdoms were just going to get like maybe Skitarii, or maybe Order of the Sword. They're not getting Order of the Sword, and I'm mad about it.
Not yet.
But
yet.
they're the three things they're getting. They showed no concept art. They showed nothing for this, and I'm assuming that means these are coming last. These are probably coming in January.
Yeah. These will be after the holiday season.
Which is okay. It's okay. We'll get there.
They can only put out so many pallets of stuff at once. That's okay.
It'll be the fall of Wadroon for me, and then once January comes around, it'll be the new year, new kingdom, new bitch. Who this? It me. And it's going to be 100 Kingdoms restoring the faith. And they are trying to dive into the church and stuff about all of that. Right? First off, Skitarii, which currently the rules for them are they're like a devout unit where the Theist priest goes in them and they do a bunch of like cool stuff. They're lights.
It's Sakari.
What? Sakari, whatever. Words are hard. Like...
I don't disagree that words are hard.
And I know you're probably looking at the second one if you've got the catalog pulled up with us, but we're going to come back to that one last, because I think that one's going to be a big deal. The next thing is going to be Crusaders. And these are going to be a dual kit that also can make men-at-arms. So it's going to make two separate units. It's going to make these new Crusader units, which we don't know what those does, and it'll be a rebox for the men-at-arms, who, like, to be honest, kind of desperately need a new unit.
I think they hold up better than like Raiders for me, but they could use a little love.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see what other sorts of like infantry you're going to get out of this. Like Crusaders, like off the rip, sort of sound like Paladin-y, sort of like I think of if you guys ever played the game Kingdom Under Fire, they have like big Paladin unit in there. They have like full plate mail and like broadswords. Very cool. Thinking of that.
The main menu theme for that is playing in my head now. Thank you.
It's quite a game. I have it. I'm going to play it after this. The final thing, though, is Archangel. Archangel. Now,
quietly, John and I have been talking about this possibility behind the scenes for a minute. And John said it wouldn't be done. I wasn't so sure.
I was surprised that they announced this, and it says on here, monster expansion set. So it's a monster base. But they said it wasn't a monster. And they said it isn't going to be what you think it's going to be, and it's going to have a unique twist. So let's see what this is.
Yeah.
My hope is that they go wild with it. Like, let's see how crazy this gets. I am genuinely interested to see what they actually come up with here. And I am hopeful, and I think it'll be great. We don't know next to anything about it. They said they said they will talk more about this later this year when they have another happy hour. And we will probably talk more about it then. But this is very promising and very cool.
I mean, it means 100 Kingdoms are getting a monster. Like, I know people were like, where would they get it? It's only going to be Catapult. But, like, there's some magic stuff going on here. And for me, it was always a thing of, we could get some sort of holy construct or some sort of holy embodiment or miracle or spirit or thing that may not be a monster, but is, like, on a monster base, is big sized. And I don't know how far away from monster or into monster they're going to lean, but I'm interested to find out, that's for sure. And I do think that's a fun tool for 100 Kingdoms to putz around with, whatever it does.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm curious to see what it is, and it'll be a great time. But to close us out here, final thoughts on the catalog and the reveal and everything else. My final thoughts are, wow, I am extremely excited. Like, there's a ton of stuff to get into for the rest of the year, going into next year, on top of the news about the tournaments, on top of the other stuff that we're finding out. So, like, man, it is the time to be into Conquest. The models are going to be easy to pick up. The game itself is going in a good direction. We're getting new releases and new rules. Like, everything just is coming up gravy.
It's all coming up Millhouse. It's true.
Yeah. I'm going to be buying up a bunch of Wadroon stuff. We're going to be playing a bunch of lists, playing a bunch of different stuff. And then we're both going to have stuff for both of our armies, right? Like, you're getting Dwarven and Nords stuff. I'm getting Wadroon and 100 Kingdom stuff. Everyone in our group's going to have new stuff to play with. So we're all just going to be like having a great time playing a bunch of different games. And we'll be able to go to other places and play year-round tournaments and have a good time.
Yeah, truly for me, it was a thing of like, I don't know if I really have a lot of gas in the tank for like my Nords army, for example. My list is kind of done. bitch you thought. Because now the runway has just opened up before me. And for me also, sneakily, not only is it a bunch of new minis, but rules redesigns as well. So like, yeah, here's more options for your armies, but also we're going to look at some of these core rules and fix some of your core fundamental problems. That's a great time. And I can't complain. Like, change always comes with some amount of bumpiness, but I welcome it if they're that tuned in.
Yeah, I mean, for me, regardless of how it pans out, the fact that they are willing to take that swing and try as such a young company is quite hopeful. Right? Call it copium, call it whatever you want. I'm excited, and that's just great to be excited about the game.
I think I'll have more rules to play with. I know I'll have more minis to putz around with.
And we might be playing every week. We might be having a time for the rest of the year.
I don't know. I also want to play some Age of Sigmar and some Infinity, but
we'll just play more games. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, solve the problem. Boom.
Yeah.
But I do like that. If there's anything I'm certain of, is that I will be playing more Conquest once I have more minis in my hand, or rules in my hand. And that's really good. And I hope that that's true across the board for people, because it could grow the community pretty significantly, and bring in some money and people to local shops that need them. But we haven't been in for quite a year yet, but we're fairly invested. How about y'all out there? Are you excited about these releases, or are you interested in some of these minis and you weren't otherwise a Conquest player? Also, are you a City-States person and are willing to give us the TLDR on these City-States models mechanically? Because Lord knows we could use that badly. Or Kang, save us. God, please. We don't know nothing about them. We will be over here recording more stuff, and as we said, if there are rules changes, we'll be talking about them, and you'll be seeing us soon. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, or reach out on Instagram. For now, that has been all of our opinions, bona fide, and Kentucky Fried. We'll see y'all in the next one.